somebody. Everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody.
LOLO Knows is a motivational talk show that showcases talented DJs and folks from every walk of life that has a message of life to share through music, wine, and great talk.
Everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to be.
You know what? I just want to let everybody know that you actually did me a solid this evening, although I know that you would have come here to the studio for this show, but we are right now doing a remote show with you, you know, on Skype. And
local,
it's like you are here, right here in the studio, because right now my goal for LOLO Knows is to do what I'm doing and be able to talk to DJs and talent and just people all over the world. I don't want to just limit myself.
Don't lie. You're in the
everybody.
Caribbean somewhere, aren't you? You're somewhere exotic.
That's right.
Don't
man.
lie. I know.
We're like in Ibiza right now.
I knew it. I knew there was something going on. It looked too sunny. Very nice.
Oh my gosh.
I love the technology though. Yeah, this is cool.
Isn't this cool? Man, we're just,
Pretty
you know,
cool.
I have been actually following your career for actually the last couple of years, Jake, when, you know, it's just like, even though you and I just talked about, we should have probably had met like years and years ago. And maybe
Exactly.
we did cross each other's paths at one point or another, but
That's true.
it, you know, it's just like the time is now. Time is now.
Exactly. Finally.
Now,
Better late
finally.
than never. Yes.
Finally. Now,
Yes.
your name
Thanks,
really
Ken.
stuck out in my head since the movement party, the pre-movement party that you did for Liquid.
Right, right.
I'm like,
Good times.
man, you know, that was a good show because right there, you know, you brought a lot of that like tech house, techno feel right back to downtown where a lot of that hasn't been,
Exactly.
you know,
Kind of-
played in a long time.
Yeah, it's really been, I mean, as we know, I mean, especially that spot where that was held, I mean, what's the primary music sound in that building? And it's a big space, as we know, talking about Liquid. And yeah, I mean, you know, as time's gone on, I think, you know, yeah, there's been a little more diversity in terms of the sound. But, yeah, I think we did kind of cut right to the chase with that one, didn't we? I mean, coming into, you know, late May, we said, listen, let's kind of represent this whole Detroit thing. And, you know, we know, I mean, between you and I mean, we could list probably hundreds of people that make that trip, you know, every year to Movement to Demph, you know, and do that the whole thing, you know, the long weekend. And it's like, it makes the most sense. Let's just keep it central. Let's make a declaration here that it's big enough to succeed, even in a, you know, in a big, let's call it quote unquote mainstream, maybe more EDM routed room. And you know what? It was a success. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, I mean, it was certainly more than just a couple of us involved. I mean, you know, luckily it was just a groundswell of a little bit of everybody, you know what I mean? Like the true underground heads from, you know, Akron, Cleveland, you know, all over. And then, you know, the club, the people that, you know, probably would be interested in anything that venue offers. And they kind of, you know, they took the open-minded approach and it was great. I mean, people were bouncing all night. It was very memorable. And I appreciate you mentioning that because that was one of the last things we've done. When I say us, I'm talking about like AlgoRhythm, myself, Randy, our little crew. I mean, you know, we love picking those kind of moments and trying to just, you know, like I said, quality over quantity and try to just knock something out of the park and maybe sometimes a little unexpected.
Right. So, you know, how long have you been promoting events? First of all, just give us a kind of a background in how you got started in the dance music scene.
Sure. I mean, it's been pretty much all here in Cleveland. I've moved around personally quite a bit. You know, I've worked in a lot, and I kind of laugh because, you know, it seems like every few years I'm doing something different. I just kind of keep moving through, you know, and so for work, you know, not talking about the promoting stuff or DJing stuff, more just work. I go, you know, I've been all over the place, Texas, Florida for several years, you know, the Carolinas a little bit, you know, up, you know, Ohio. And yeah, I mean, you know, for me, it's been pretty much about, you know, I think doing the studying of how it goes in different markets, you know, up until about, you know, 2009, 2010. And that's really when it started clicking with me. You know, myself and Randy, and I mentioned him a lot because he and I have kind of, you know, sort of fused, you know, we have a very similar approach and have similar interests in terms of the music itself. So that kind of helps guide what we want to do, you know, and kind of put the events together. So that's worked out well. So he and I met it's been about 5 years now. So I'd come back to Cleveland in 2009, partially to go back to school. Went to grad school and, a new job after that and things like that. So
and your chemistry.
Yeah, so I've been, teaching chemistry, but I've also worked in construction all over. I mean, like I said, it's like jump here, jump there. Construction for like 5-6 years. I worked in labs, a lot of science kind of things. I mean, that's always been my sort of strong suit, like working in science in some form or fashion, I guess. But so when 2009 came back to town, had a handful of people I knew from being in Cleveland as a younger, like college age, starting to go out, in the 2000s and, going out to places like, when Moda was still around,
Oh, man, the most prettiest club that I've ever laid eyes on here in Cleveland. It just kind of disappeared.
It's kind of a sad thing.
That was such a sad thing.
We always joke, Lolo, the ice cream cone remains. Because,
Oh, yeah, because it is.
Right? I mean,
it's an ice cream shop now.
Yeah. It's like this gigantic. Have you ever in your life, I mean, you've been to a zillion clubs, I know. How many places had a booth like that? I mean, I know it was kind of modeled after Crowbar, I think, in Miami Beach when it was in existence, but that's now gone too. It's now something. It's like now completely different.
It is. It was just that beautiful. They had all that lighting. They had the misters that went on when it got hot. They threw the misters on. Everybody waited for them. Like, it was just like awesome freaking sight.
Yeah, it was like snowing in there after like 30 seconds. It was nuts.
Actually, this is so funny. I can go back on this, and you know what? You probably wouldn't remember it, but I don't care. I'm just going to go ahead and mention it. But LeBron James had his when he first got onto the Cavs, they threw him a party there. And I remember actually sharing a dance with LeBron at Moda on the main floor. And they had the whole VIP upstairs already reserved for him, but he wanted to stay downstairs and party it up with everybody. He says, no, I'm staying here. And everybody was all around, and we all got to kind of dance with them and everything. It was awesome. And at that time, DJ G-Spot.
All that emotion one night, and then let's replicate that and stretch it over 10 years, the emotion with LeBron, and bring him back.
I felt like the last 4 years was like the worst breakup ever. It was like, it was like a dark cloud over over Cleveland for so long. I felt it kind of reminded me, like, if you hold on to that much resentment, it just brings you down. It brings the aura, the energy, it just brings a population down. And that's exactly, and as soon as you see how it was almost like a big cloud just shifted, and then you saw the sunlight when he announced coming back, and it was like, oh, and it was just like Cleveland like blew up, and it became like this rainbow of color. Now it's like the number 10 city in the United States. Now it's just like, what did this all happen?
The momentum has shifted officially. I think it can be officially declared. Thank God.
I know, man. I got people like I have friends and I have family actually in Puerto Rico that are like, hitting me up like on Instagram, and they're saying, hey, you think you could get me some tickets to the Cavs game? And it's just like, I'm hoping to get some tickets to the Cavs game.
Oh, exactly. Let's let all of us locals try to go first, please.
Right.
Come on. We've been riding the sucker out.
They have no idea. But let's get back to your career and everything. I want to talk about the underground scene in general. So you had something to. Okay, let's start off with Jay Soiree, because you had a comment about the show that I did with him last week. And
well, he's awesome. I mean, he's another guy that sort of passing ships through the night kind of guy. I've known of him for a while. We've been on Facebook, and again, it's an interesting thing because I think when I step back, I go, yeah. I mean, for someone like myself, I am by no means in the same vein as someone as like a Jay Soiree, who's been doing this, underground thing
like
for
20 years.
Decades essentially. No, I mean, I'm not going to lie and try to put myself out there like that. No, I've been. First of all, he certainly the stuff that we've done has been more underground flavor, music wise, but have been quite frequently in a club, right? I mean, we're not doing typically stuff I'm involved with 9 times out of 10 isn't in. In a true rave kind of feel, or, not to say all the things he does is that way, but it's generally in sort of more above ground, venues, and then we just bring that underground kind of, taste or flavor to the whole
Right.
thing with the DJ selections and the music programming. And so, but I find that interesting what he does, and certainly he's been, a force, in that for, like we said, years. So I find like what he says and all the stories he brings compelling as heck, and it really does have an unbelievable amount of history to it, and it really defines sort of where Cleveland has gone music-wise underground. So
The thing that I find interesting about Jay, this is a kind of a conversation that I want to have with you.
sure.
He has been moving with the times. He hasn't lost that childhood enthusiasm about
Absolutely.
how you feel when you're in the masses around people and
That's
feeling
right.
the music. Do you feel that same?
I think so.
Thing?
Like I said, even with a little bit, art, in my mind, I feel like, and you and I would, I'm sure, agree, there's no debating this really. I mean, there's such a wide, or I should say an incredible list of DJs that are incredibly talented in this town.
Yes.
And when I say town, I truly mean, all of northeastern Ohio. I mean, we're talking Akron, Canton, Cleveland, and beyond. I mean, that, I like to showcase those, and like sort of, get that sort of blend and provide the context, and then sort of those people, 3, 4, 5 a night or whatever it is.
I just can't believe how Akron's just thriving. I had no
Well,
idea it was that heavy deep.
Yeah, no, it's really, it's impressive. I mean, and for me, my slant is more house and techno, and there's way more than that. I mean, all the bass DJs that are represented down there too, but it's incredible. I mean, and there's been, obviously things like Contrive and, a lot of
Shout out to Justin Bailey.
Oh God! Yeah. I see these guys putting so much time and effort, and it's showing so well. I mean, and it really, like I said, I just my only thing is, God, I wish I could attend more of them, and be at everything, because those are the people I really look up to, are the ones that can sort of pull off their regular life and then just keep going to events and support. I try to pick and choose as many as I can. That's the difference between maybe myself and some of the other true underground heads that have been here for all these years, and they've been like super representative, and they come out and it's sort of like no questions asked, and that's to me, I really give props to them. What I was saying before was that I want to highlight those locals, but I also then want to put the cherry on top with someone that maybe you haven't seen before, or haven't been to town. Jay had mentioned, you guys were going back and forth about Carl Cox, which, I mean, I'm a huge fan too.
Yes.
The guy's, I mean,
About to correct me.
The guy's always on top of the list, right? I mean, he's a genius. He's the true legend.
He's a true legend. He's number one, man. In my that man can do no wrong.
I wanted to correct one thing, because I was listening back again. I was like, and I think you guys were debating if he had been to town to Cleveland. He has been, but it's been so long. I mean, it's been like, I think 8 or 9 years. But he played Metropolis way back in the day. I want to say like at least 8, 9 years ago.
Deadmau5 played Metropolis back in the day too.
I wasn't back in Cleveland yet for that, but that was back a ways too. Yeah, were you with that? The Deadmau5 show?
I was not there. I just had friends who told me that he was there.
Sure.
So and
Right.
people through True Events at that time.
Yeah, True Events, and they also. There's been some really great collaborations between groups like, True, and then, like Techno, and then they brought in like Richie Houghton into that same building, maybe a year later. I don't know all the dates, but, like a Richie Houghton along with like, a huge array of like the best techno DJs. And, so that to me is a great goal, or sort of a template to have. Really just load it down with all these great local DJs, and then, like I said, sort of like the cherry on top. Like, guess what, guys? Like, this is someone you're only going to see like in town once every 5 or plus years, and then just give that treat, And if you can do it, obviously it's expensive. I mean, and it takes the right amount of teamwork usually to really make it fly, but usually it's worth it. I mean, usually it's from a business end, if you really push it, and then sometimes you just stand back and go, you know what? Sometimes from a business end, that's not the only end that matters. It's like, this has been a memorable night, and as a promoter, you sometimes have to sort of just take that. And if it keeps you going, you're still doing well, I guess. That's sometimes the trick, and I'm not a business, person to the core. I'm like, yeah, my main business is what I do for work, and whatever, we can throw off one of these parties, and if you can get most of your money back, cool. And that's a weird mindset, because most other big markets, in New York or Chicago, there's hardly ever a time they're, well, I shouldn't say that, but maybe less often they're dealing with having to take a loss, and that's a challenge.
But yeah, you don't want to do that, because at one point you're kind of tight. You actually would want to do business with the venue again, especially if you have a successful night, and make them want to make that same type of event bigger for the next time you guys do it. So that's the thing. I think sometimes, even when I see events coming across my page that I feel like can be promoted even bigger or better, I don't know if people necessarily want to go bigger or better. Maybe they're just trying to just have a party and just gather their closest friends around and just do that type of thing. But then you've got people like, Cumulus, or you got people like True, and and even if you're not them people, you're not that promotional type of group, then you're even if you get a couple of people and are passionate about doing something together, then maybe you can make some regular type of event go. Maybe it won't be like a monthly, but it may be a quarterly type of thing that you do, and then you just promote the crap out of it.
Yeah, give it a couple months to breathe, and word of mouth finally starts to kind of get out there, and you get the social media channels. Because
it's stressful doing that job. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Sure is.
I know, and it's just like, it is. I mean, it's like you can get gray hair real quick doing a job like that.
Don't even zoom in right now.
I'm serious. It's just like, you know what? I didn't believe it, but my friend Bobby Champagne, shout out to him with Cali Miles Inc. He did, he taught me that firsthand.
Right.
He says, this is not easy. And these guys, you got to give it up to them. They do it every week.
Day in, day out.
Day in, day out, man. Nobody does it like them.
And that's where I will stay completely honest and say, listen, that's why, at the end of the day, that's why you really truly have to be, like, your heart has to be in it more than the wallet, and I'm sure there's some cliche to that effect, right?
Exactly.
For what we do. And essentially, I look at it from a perspective of, I kind of do it for fun. It's like an extended hobby. And then almost for that, month or month and a half, it really becomes like the job, and you really go, okay, I'm really trying to birth this event here. Like, I swear to God, it's going to hurt.
Right.
It's like, it sounds silly as heck, but it's true. I mean, it really is. And, because you put all your time and you go, really it comes down to, is the crowd reaction good? Do you have a good turnout? Of course. If you're selling tickets, you got to deal with that. I mean, there's so many things, most of the people listening probably at this point do too. But, if your heart's in it and you can get everyone else behind you, you're in good shape. So
that is a really good point. But right now we're actually going to be going to our first break, and we're going to have music by you, man.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Here's DJ Jake Clemens and his partner.
R-Masie, Randy.
Randy R-Masie.
Here we go.
Man, is that Italian or what?
Yeah, he's Italian.
Okay. All right, and we will be back with LOLO Knows. welcome back to LOLO Knows. Man, that mix made me feel like, Jake, I was at an after hours just now.
Not bad for 7:30 in the evening, right?
I love
I'm
it.
glad you like it. Thank you for playing.
Hey, it's like 4:30 a.m. somewhere in the world.
Yeah, in Ibiza.
Have you ever traveled abroad to go to some major like dance music festivals?
Travel-wise?
Yeah, like
Yeah, nothing too exotic. I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, wow, it would have been nice to be at like, I think we have a mutual friend that was at just like a day or two ago in Ibiza at DC-10, that hangar that they do that Circo Loco party. They had like maybe 50 major DJs at, like a big closing party for the season.
I know.
Craziness. So, but for me, not so much.
My only friend I know there that went was Stonebridge. Stonebridge.
Nice.
So he, it's like I'm looking at pictures of him, and I was talking to him recently, and I'm just like, really?
That's the life. That's the real
life.
That's,
he was like on some boat, and it was like some ship, like boat.
Oh my
like,
goodness!
And it was like people in bikinis and shorts and drinks, and everybody looked beautiful. They're all dancing,
like,
and
you're probably over in like Mykonos or something ridiculous, and you're sitting there going, "Yeah, it's 40 in Cleveland over coast, but I'll take a drink with an umbrella anyway." It's true. But no,
make believe. We'll make believe.
Yeah. I'm creating my environment right here. Throw the sand over there. No, actually, yeah. So I mean, mostly, it's been, for a while. Like I mean, I grew up in upstate New York, and like I had some. This is not going to sound exotic at all, but shooting up to like Canada sometimes. I mean, Toronto. That's a place that is like, to me. I mean, again, not that far from us anywhere, really, in the Midwest, and going up there, but you have this amazing. It's sort of like a nice shortcut to kind of that vibe, because you have so many, just a really good mix of international people that are so hip to that music that we like, the house, the deep music, stuff that was on that mix. I mean, like, that's my kind of vibe. So yeah, I mean, I'd go up there quite often to go see like John Digweed, Deep Dish, some of the people that are like, we're listing off some of these, jet set types, the superstar DJs, quote unquote. But, yeah, no, so just like short trips. I mean, I like to do that on a weekend, just pick a weekend and go, and like we were talking about, you got your movement weekends, you've got your, WMCs down in Miami,
I've been at WMC like 6 times, and that's always been a blast for me. Now you have Ultra,
right?
That goes on for that big weekend, and I have a couple friends who are now promoting Ultra, and shout out to Jill Carter. Joey Stacks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Putting my plugs in for Ultra. You know what time it is. Give me that ticket now.
Jill, there we go. And I will give props to Jill, 'cause I'll tell you what. Talk about, I was rattling on about, local DJs that I look up to, and she's on that list for sure, man. She kicks butt. We've been on, several gigs together where, we've had adjacent sets or whatever, and it's just like, she's come up and up and up, man. She's the real deal. Jill's amazing.
She is.
Really knows her stuff.
She is, and she is Carl Cox's head. She just saw Carl at Movement, and she said when she was in the audience, she was just like, she couldn't move. She's like, she was like starstruck. It was like she was like a statue. And she was just looking in awe, like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe this man is in front of me. I can't believe it. Like, this guy has moved me into wanting to DJ.
That's right.
And it's just, it's always good to just have those ones that just kind of make you want to do this. And it's just like, did you have that moment yourself, Jake? Where you just, I mean, did you start off with vinyl, and everything else?
Did.
Like everything? Okay.
Yeah, I still have all that original vinyl. I started, like getting started way back. I mean, I did most of my college, time down at OU, down in Athens, and I was like, I didn't really DJ out. I mean, I threw some house parties and would have, 50 people over and just jam out. But, I was buying records like crazy, from like late 90s, and I started with like the trancey big room stuff, early on. And that was my thing for a couple of years, the Sasha and Digweed, the Oakenfold stuff, the Paul Van Dykes, so like that was the kind of vinyl, like the big room stuff I would buy, like years and years and, have crates of that stuff. and then it's just slowly evolved. I got to see, actually, I would say that moment that might be kind of similar to what you're talking about was like seeing Sasha and Digweed in 2002 at the Agora. They did that big tour. They did that big like post.
Yeah.
They had that Twilo residency in New York up until 2001, and then they just said, "Screw it, we're gonna eat this cost." I mean, I'm sure they made money, but they did that whole like stateside tour, like with all the trucks of their whole gear, like the Phazon system, like ridiculous sound, and they played in the Agora, the original big theater, not the original, but the theater, the big theater. And that moment was probably one of those, like 2000, that was I think 2002 or 2001 or 2. The Delta Heavy tour with Sasha and Digweed, and I've always been a huge fan of both of theirs. So yeah.
You've always been a big fan of house techno.
Yeah.
Now you got the whole tech house, and tell me what moves you about that music, that genre.
I think you could probably hear a little bit from that mix, and I like to bring in a lot of rhythm. I mean, I spent 5-6 years down in Florida, and working and going out, and there was a place down in Tampa called Hyde Park Cafe. That's in sort of the close to downtown, but like not too far from downtown Tampa. That some really really good DJs had residencies. DJ 3. You've probably heard of him.
Oh, my God. Wait a minute. Let's just go back to 3.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Jazz. Okay, so
man, I just have to go back to 3 real quick. Just let me have my moment. This guy is phenomenal. Okay? Yes. Phenomenal. I saw him for the first time at the freaking, what was it, the Fantasy or Symposium?
Yeah.
No, it's the Symposium.
Well, I say that was, Night Moves, which is mainly like right now like Stout with a bunch people that we know. You're friends with Stout, and
Stout
a bunch of
is
people,
amazing,
and like Justin Hartman, like all those guys.
Yes.
Because they know their stuff, man. They've been doing it, and so that was DJ.
Shout out to Justin Hartman.
Those guys are awesome.
These guys. Justin's the kind of guy. He kind of he's the type of DJ who's really good and loves what he does, but he just kind of shares it with his friends. He kind of does it on a level where it's it's just something he just shares with his friends. Doesn't necessarily share with the world unless you're on his SoundCloud or you're, following certain things. But, he is amazing, isn't he?
He's one of the best. I mean, I would say, one of my favorites. And, and when he plays, as you know, quite frequently with Jason and Jamie, and those guys. I mean, to me, that
Party Lips,
that really dark, deep Party Lips, slow and low vibe. I mean, to me, I could see a 6-hour set of that and not be tired of it. I swear. I mean, that because they're creative as hell, and they're making their own remixes. I'm sure some of those guys hopefully listen tonight, and I'm kissing them. But they're great. I mean, I'm friends with those guys, and whenever I can see them, I'm out there trying to see them. So, yeah, they're fantastic.
They are fantastic. So you have. Tell me about some of your influences, people like you open for. Tell me also about your relationship with Randy. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, actually, he and I, so I met him. Like I said, I came back to Cleveland after traveling around for work. So I was on this like kind of whirlwind, like living in various different cities around the South and out west a little bit, and so I'd come back, and it's one of those funny things where you always, everyone has these moments, right? You look back in time and like retrace what events you were at or things, and he and I had been to like so many different major Cleveland parties, and we just didn't know each other at the time, but we had crossed paths and finally met in a real way at Anatomy at one of Dan Stark's parties. Like
that's another guy who's doing his thing, Dan.
Years and just continues to bring in good talent, great talent. I mean, he's had some of the best parties in town. I mean,
shout out to Dan Starks. Got to get him on LOLO Knows.
Yes, and same with Jamie Skeen. Mm-hmm. Those guys have been doing stuff together and making it happen for again since really more than 10 years. I know that. I mean more than 10 years, well more than that. So anyway, he had an open deck. So it was an interesting thing. It was right after New Year's, like 4 years ago. It's kind of a unique thing. They didn't have a normal, they were doing their monthly thing, and this happened to land like a day or two after New Year's, and they did like an open decks thing. So it was sort of like, hey, new up and comers, sign up and play kind of thing, And so, like, almost like an open mic night for DJs. It's kind of cool. They should do that more often, by the way. And maybe I need to start throwing those, because that kind of gave me the start, quite honestly. And so I met Randy at that, and so he and I played, like maybe an hour each. And, we kind of clicked, because when people are playing similar music that, meshes well and have a similar interest. So that worked out really well. And who else was there? M played. I met Todd there. I met Mark Roscoe was there. I mean, there was like a bunch of guys, like a good mixture of everybody. And, all the Dan, Jamie, all the people we were talking about before, like, the slow and low guys, Justin, Graf, got to meet all those guys. And, I've known these guys, or listened to their music for so long. And like, I was like sort of reappeared in Cleveland, after being gone for all these years. I'm like, like a real introduction. It was cool. And, so anyway, Randy and I kind of met there and talked. And then we were like, we should do some stuff. Like, let's throw some of our own parties. And, and it seems like a quick jump off after just a trial run at a club. We were kind of like maybe overly confident. Where it's like, hey, let's throw some parties. So we did we had KT, like Kenneth Thomas, come through a few times. Some just really good. I
saw that.
Yeah, in like 2010, 11. So we did a lot of things at Anatomy, like when it was really still consistently, electronic in some sort.
It really was. It was one of It was one of the only clubs besides Mercury, now Drop Bar, which really didn't change their, music. Those are the only real two places that were doing it consistently. Pretty much. And, when you think back, you go, wow, there wasn't really a lot. But in some ways it didn't seem like maybe it was so bad, because again, it was so, like you're saying, it was so consistently decent quality, and it was, you kind of always play that line of like, again, you're in a venue that's sort of above ground, but you bring, slightly, underground sound. And we were kind of riding that fence. And we had, we brought in, like, we had a couple other parties, like Saeed Younan came through. We had, who else? Just every couple months. And like I said, it wasn't like we were doing stuff like Dan and those guys were, for every month, like doing really major events almost every month or close to it, or every other month, and we were kind of like every 3 or 4, we'd kind of like space it out and, bring something up, and, it was fun, and then we would do things like WMC warm-up parties, and just have great locals spin like house, and just keep it that vibe, though. The stuff that you hear me play all the time, the housey stuff, Randy plays that as well. We kind of have, he likes to play, and we're a good compliment, because he likes to play a little bit darker, like even, I would say even more ravier, and I kind of keep it maybe the more funky, like a little bit of Latin tinge, a little more percussive, like dark drums, and, almost like terrace music. It all sounds really awesome to me, though. Cool. I know it sounded good today.
That's good to hear, because, we try to compliment it and not, keep it fresh, not all one sounding. And that's always the challenge. You try to keep it, a little bit of people guessing and, without going too off course, Well,
I will just say this, it's really important to kind of keep this underground scene relevant.
Sure.
And here, because what we're having and what we're experiencing is, EDM has grown, and it's grown more commercially based, and, it's getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
And, what do you foresee for the underground scene? You've got your groove house, you have your contrive events, you have your night moves. I mean,
sure.
What do you see happening?
Well, I mean, it certainly feels like the progress is moving in the right direction. It does seem, it's almost like you have to strengthen those little niches, you know what I mean? And by that I mean, well, you really need to strengthen those. Plus,
I think the relationships are very important.
Definitely.
Especially in that community, which is tight-knit,
That's
very
right.
close, and
That's
clicky.
True. That's
okay.
true, too.
Okay? Lolo knows. Lolo will call it out. So I've gravitated towards all the scenes, and I'm kind of a chameleon like that, but I just love music, and that's why I'm there. I'm there for the music. I'm there for the artistry. I'm there for the passion of it, but I'm also there because everybody that is a part of that community, they have all come up together and they've
That's
seen
true.
things change, and they've seen
Yeah.
things kind of move. So I kind of see where even maybe the cliques have started, just because maybe they all wanted to kind of stay together and stay close, and
Sure.
be able to like
It's a survival
experience
thing.
their
Yeah.
music together, where
Right.
it doesn't die off, completely.
Exactly. And I think, and I even think back to like what some of the words that Jay had said, when you spoke with him last week, and it's like, your success, your true successes seem to happen regardless of the location or, the city venue. I mean, it's like when you can get, and maybe that really harkens back to like, if you can truly get that feel of an underground party in the truest sense, you're fusing together all the groups. And then on top of that, as you're saying, let's focus on the music. Let's make sure we're not just one little slice of house. Because, I mean, every type of this dance music we talk about has little micro slices in it, and it gets kind of crazy, right? I mean, you mentioned tech house, and there's so many other little
There's
pieces
progressive
of
house.
and I'm sure that's not unknown. That's
Now
not
there's
lost.
Transier Tech House. They got names. I mean, they've got like subcategories for all the main genres of the
Right.
electronic dance music.
What cracks me up, and not to go too far off, and I always like laugh at this. This whole thing, like where you see, and maybe I'm just watching too many things on like a Facebook or whatever, but you see like, okay, well the we know for like 2 or 3 years this dubstep blow up had happened, right? And it just it went from like this weird word that no one really knew what it was in 2010, 11 to 2012 or 2013 when it's like, oh, it's the most popular genre. Okay. And then all of a sudden, this is the funnier part to me. It's like that whole crowd moved over to deep house. Like
Okay.
that's always the thing. Like, oh, we now have the hot subgenre. It's deep house. How
Right.
does someone who listens to wobbly bass care about like what you just played of mine?
Let me interject though. I have another DJ friend who's actually going to be booked on the 21st of October. DJ
Right.
Blake Rogers from Baltimore, who's going to be on LOLO Knows, and he's
Awesome.
been on Billboard. He's amazing. He's primarily, a house DJ, vinyl
Yeah.
house. He still does
Very-
his vinyls, man. He
Respect.
can't let go of the vinyls. He just can't. He says the computer thing, it just kind of, I can't do it. He says, Lo, I just can't. My brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a computer. I'm now a computer guy primarily, but you'd still like never want to lose that. I mean, if you can still have the records around, it's just I don't know. There is something that it feels like it keeps you grounded when you can throw it on a turntable and just drop the needle on it. Something about that tactile
And it
nature of it all.
sounds
But
wonderful.
Yeah.
It does
but-
sound wonderful. That's the thing that when Daryl Stout was throwing the B-side part, the patio parties,
Right.
almost every DJ that came, they all had vinyl.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that
Pretty
was
much all of them.
It's
I
coming
mean,
back a
almost
lot. A lot
all,
of them are
so
using it again.
it's like a lot of them are just kind of, going back to that art that's not going to, I don't think it will get ever lost. I think that
Right.
there are going to be people that still appreciate it or can still appreciate it. And that I think it's up to us,
Yes.
up to those ones who are still doing that. We can bring even the younger generation in to
Absolutely.
maybe experience a little bit of it.
Sure.
But right now, we're going to be getting ready for our second break. We're going to be doing another mix by you
Oh,
and Randy. And I just wanted to go ahead and say this really quick, that LOLO Knows is being primarily sponsored by La Beauty Mobile Spa. So you can actually call for any of your mobile spa treatments at 216-798-3992, because you know what? It's tough to be a doll, but La Beauty can help.
And guys should do it also.
That's right. Guys actually
I do
should.
it. I do it.
I just wrote
Yes,
that-
you know
oh,
I do
what?
it.
You know what?
Keep your woman happy.
Yeah,
or your man, depending on who
yes,
you are.
exactly. There is nothing wrong with a man keeping himself up just as much as the woman does.
You got to keep it up.
And we will be back with LOLO Knows.
Your lips close to my lips.
I just want that mix to play throughout the whole freaking show. Like right behind me. Like I feel like it would really even more inspire the conversation. I'm
Right
like,
on.
this is really loud. I was like hearing myself all over the place.
She turned herself up so she could
I
take her
turned
headphones
myself
off.
up.
Yeah. That's why it's too loud. Bro.
I
Are
was
you up to
jamming
11?
out. I was actually jamming out.
Hello, Cleveland. We're up to 11.
She was definitely up to 11. Not anymore. It's normalized.
Did you hear it? Did you hear it
No,
like that?
sounded
No,
fine.
no, it was fine. Only you heard it that loud, though. That's it.
That's amazing.
That's all.
Okay, listen. Jay, let's talk about some up and coming events. What can I expect from you down the road?
Next weekend, nothing this weekend. Actually, I'll tell you what. I mean, it's been kind of low key for me.
October, man, always seems to be like
It
the
always
party of
picks up.
parties.
Yeah, it definitely does. And yeah, it was fun. Like last year, ended up playing a crazy huge, like definitely a more underground rave feeling underground party for Halloween last year.
Oh, that must
It
have
was
been
really
good.
out of control. I don't know if it's happening again. I was like, I don't know. It may have been too out of control, crazy to go again. I don't know. But anyway, I am playing with Randy, who we've been talking about off and on. He and I are tagging on the 18th. So like not this Saturday, but a week from Saturday at Tomo for a friend's birthday party. And there's a bunch of locals.
Yeah, isn't that like that's on the 25th?
I think it's the 18th. I think the 18th.
No, the 18th. Okay.
Yeah. So a week from Saturday. I kept
Let
thinking
me
it was
make
this Saturday.
sure
It's
so I
next.
can tell everybody correctly.
Yeah.
So
and
we're not
then,
giving them the wrong date.
and I think
Yes,
there's
18th is a Saturday.
Right, and like I said, I think that's the third floor of Toma, which is over there. Like,
Yes.
what is it, 9th, West 9th?
It's on West 9th.
Yeah, so that's like the next thing, and then we've got some.
It's
things
actually right next to Anatomy, actually.
That's right. Yep, the big sushi.
Yes.
Whatever. Place.
They've been doing some really cool parties over there. I just went to one just last week and stuff, and it was just
Was it cool?
awesome. It was cool. Yeah, they're
Nice.
doing a lot more EDM events over there, so I'm
Right on.
always very happy to be over there supporting some of their events.
Absolutely, and then we're working on nothing I can share yet, but hopefully in like a week or less we'll have this confirmed. We're working on a pretty big headliner for November, so for next month, so about 5-6 weeks from now. that we're working on, and more think of it in terms of certainly underground house, touring house head, kind of the more, ghetto edged house. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, that dirty.
The real dirty 808.
Yeah.
The real dirty 808
Awesome.
stuff.
Yes.
Good low end.
Yes.
That's in the works, and we're working that out. So that should be on board, or
Really turned me
official
on when I
week
just
or so.
heard that.
Yeah. I know.
La, 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 la.
It's gonna be something worth thinking about for sure. Yeah.
Huh?
That'll be a downtown deal, big room event, but underground for sure. Yeah, and we'll probably have like 3 locals opening. So
Let's talk about also this. Let me just say this. I want to say that I want to, the reason why I started LOLO Knows is because, first of all, it's a motivational talk show. And I do feature talented DJs from all over, from all walks of life, that are playing music from, in essence, I like to say from their soul. Because even when you pick something, it actually comes from you. Comes from a feeling, and when you're putting together tracks, and you're mixing them, and it's just all a feeling. It's like an art form. So,
Absolutely.
so I respect it as that. And it's a reason why, I wanted to highlight it. And I love I love where the scene is going in Cleveland, because when I moved here 17 years ago, I'll tell you what, it was nearly non-existent unless you really went to like the Metropolis, or you went to Touch, or you went to, these places. I used to go to actually Mercury to go listen to some, now it's Drop Bar.
Exactly.
And, but I'll tell you what, it's just a lovely thing. And I just want to continue to support it. And I want to continue to nurture it. And I really want to be that voice that just kind of brings it and links it all together and links relationships together, because you guys are talented, a talented group of folks that everybody should hear, really. From Groove House to Contrive to, all you guys that just are doing your thing, Night Moves,
Sure.
Tell me about you said algorithms?
Yeah, AlgoRhythm, and so that's our sort of promote group, and we've kind of in some way or fashion, and we kind of like joined forces with a lot of the groups that you've mentioned, because again, it's not like we're that far removed in terms of interest in sound, interest in quite often looking for some of the same headliners to try to come through, and it does become it's the most beautiful, right? And not to sound cheesy, but it's truly, as you're saying, the most moving and the most, rewarding when you can kind of get everyone sort of together on things. And, we've had a couple events. I think of the one that sticks out in my mind. I don't know if you were at, it's been a little while now, but down in Akron, we had brought Jay Flip from Dirty Bird in. This is going back a few years now, to a huge, we did this like big St. Patty's Day party when leprechauns attack. Actually, that culmination of like all types of sounds, basically, pieces and parts of like every subgenre of dance, and and then I had featured Jay Flip from Dirty Bird, headlining it, and it was like a all day, all night kind of thing. We just kept going into, like, they let us go into the day. How often do you have that? And
You really don't, man. That's awesome, though.
As you're saying, all those people you're rattling off were basically involved. All those groups in some form or fashion. It was fantastic. And, when it happens, it's great. It's like, if you can catch that lightning in a bottle, so to speak, and get everyone on the same page and, put aside. Because, it does take, it's like politics, a lot of times. It's true, and sometimes if the goal is good enough and like everyone's excited enough about it, it'll happen. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be that bridge over troubled waters.
Good. I love
The
it.
bridge over those shark-infested waters.
There
I
you
will
go.
be that bridge if I have to. But listen,
Yes.
we're actually getting near to the end of our show. But Jake, I wanted you to go ahead and start plugging your stuff, like where people can find you on SoundCloud, your Facebook,
Sure.
Instagram. Go
I have
ahead.
to- I'll
And
have to
then
think-
plug your
I'll
event.
think about
Yeah.
that. Oh, yeah,
We
I
got
do.
2 minutes.
You know what? I actually have it.
You know what?
actually have
I
it. But let
probably
me talk
do.
about your event, though.
Oh yeah, so well, not too much more to say about that except for look for they can go on my Twitter, which is twitter.com/
Jake Clemens, JakeClemens.
yes, and that's I'm on that probably more often now than I'm on. I used to be on Facebook a lot, and now it's sort of like I went 50-50, and now I'm kind of a little bit more leaning towards using Twitter more often, but I do use both. Facebook.com/ my initials, JJC 321. So it's a little bit different for Facebook, but it's shorter.
Yeah.
So Facebook.com/ JJC 321. And then the Twitter you gave out. And then I do have like that mix that you played.
That's
and
on
some other-
SoundCloud.
Yeah. So I usually, Randy and I.
DJ Jake Clemens on there.
Yeah. So Randy Masiello and I usually put up like some tag mixes and our individual mixes. But yeah, on SoundCloud. And then I'll actually mention Randy's, which is soundcloud.com /R-Masie. So it's R-MASIE for his. So he'll have
Awesome.
some mixes that we've done that aren't on my page, so to speak. So we kind of
All right.
bounce each other's.
All right.
around.
Well, listen, that's my cue because guess what, Jake? This hour is up. At some point,
What?
I'm actually going to extend this show past an hour. I will. I promise you, audience. Please be patient with me.
It felt like 5 minutes.
I know. But until next week, you all, I am the bridge over troubled waters.
Yes, you are.
I am bringing underground to the fold. Lolo knows to the rescue.
Take it to the bridge.
That's right. I'm taking it to the bridge. Bye now.
Thanks, Lola.
You're welcome.